In the year 2147, humanity had finally begun to explore beyond its own solar system. For decades, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly to develop faster-than-light travel, hoping to find new worlds and resources. The first few expeditions were small, cautious ventures into nearby star systems. But just as Earth's nations started dreaming of expansion, something unexpected happened. A massive fleet of alien ships descended upon Earth without warning. The ships were enormous, each one larger than any city on the planet. They hovered silently above major cities like New York, Tokyo, and London, casting long shadows over the land below. People looked up in awe and fear as the skies darkened. No one knew who these aliens were or what they wanted. Then, a message came through, broadcasted across every television, radio, and digital screen on Earth. The voice was deep, cold, and mechanical. "This is the Zaxari Galactic Empire," it said. "You have 3 days to surrender your planet. Resist, and you will be destroyed." Panic spread quickly. Governments held emergency meetings, trying to figure out how to respond. Ordinary people took to the streets, some protesting, others fleeing their homes. It seemed impossible to fight back. The Zaxari technology was far beyond anything humans had ever seen. Their ships glowed with strange energy, and their weapons appeared capable of wiping out entire continents. Amid the chaos, 2 individuals found themselves at the center of the crisis. Alex Carter, a young astrophysicist, was working late in his lab when the invasion began. He watched the news unfold on a small monitor while jotting down notes about the ship's movements. Something about their design caught his attention. There was a pattern to the way they positioned themselves in orbit, almost like they were setting up some kind of network. Alex wasn't sure what it meant yet, but he knew it was important. At the same time, Mia Lopes, a brilliant engineer and colleague of Alex's, received an urgent call from General Harper. She was needed immediately in Washington, D.C. for a classified meeting. Without hesitation, she packed her things and headed to the capital. Along the way, she couldn't stop thinking about the aliens. Were they truly here to conquer, or was there more to their arrival? When Alex arrived at the Pentagon later that evening, he was surprised to see Mia waiting for him. They exchanged quick greetings before being ushered into a secure room filled with military officials and scientists. General Harper stood at the front, his face grim. "We've brought you here because we need answers," he said. "These aliens claim to be part of a galactic empire, but we know nothing about them. Can we fight them? Should we negotiate? We're counting on you two to help us decide." Alex and Mia glanced at each other nervously. They both understood the weight of the task ahead. Humanity's survival depended on their ability to think clearly and act fast. As the meeting continued, Alex shared his observations about the ship's positioning. He suggested that the Zaxari might be using advanced technology based on quantum entanglement, a concept he had studied extensively. If true, this could be their greatest weakness. Meanwhile, outside the walls of the Pentagon, the world braced itself for the unknown. People gathered in parks and town squares, holding candles and singing songs of hope. Others barricaded themselves inside their homes, preparing for the worst. Everyone agreed on one thing: Earth was not going down without a fight. As the clock ticked closer to the Zaxari's deadline, Alex and Mia dove deeper into their research. They pored over data, ran simulations, and brainstormed ideas. Somewhere in the vast amount of information lay a clue, a way to turn the tide in humanity's favor. And they were determined to find it. Alex and Mia spent the next 48 hours working nonstop, barely leaving the lab. The pressure was immense, but they refused to give up. General Harper had made it clear: if they couldn't find a solution soon, Earth would have no choice but to surrender. Alex knew that wasn't an option. He had seen too much fear in people's eyes during his trip to Washington, D.C. Surrendering meant losing everything: freedom, dignity, and hope for the future. As they sifted through classified files and data, Maya stumbled upon something unusual. Buried deep within old military archives was a project called Eclipse. It dated back nearly 30 years, long before either of them had entered the field. The project had been led by Dr. Ryan Bennett, a scientist who had mysteriously disappeared shortly after its cancellation. According to the documents, Project Eclipse aimed to harness Earth's magnetic field as a weapon. Its purpose was to disrupt advanced technologies, especially those relying on quantum entanglement. "This could be it," Maya said, her voice trembling with excitement. She showed Alex the schematics and notes left behind by Dr. Bennett. At first glance, the concept seemed far-fetched, even reckless. But the more they studied it, the more plausible it became. If they could reactivate Project Eclipse, they might stand a chance against the Zaxuri fleet. The problem was that the project had never been completed. Many of its components were missing or outdated. To make matters worse, the original team had disbanded decades ago, and much of their work had been lost. Still, Alex and Mia refused to let doubt creep in. They decided to focus on what they could control and began reaching out to anyone who might have knowledge about the project. Their search led them to Jake Miller, an eccentric engineer living in a remote part of Colorado. Jake was in his late 60s, with wild gray hair, and a workshop cluttered with gadgets and tools. He had worked closely with Dr. Bennett on Project Eclipse before it was shut down. When Alex and Mia explained the situation, Jake's eyes lit up. "I always knew this day would come," he muttered, rummaging through piles of papers and blueprints. "You're lucky I kept all this junk." Over the next few hours, Jake walked them through the basics of the weapon. He explained how it used Earth's magnetic field to create pulses strong enough to disable advanced electronics. While primitive by today's standards, the idea was revolutionary at the time. With Jake's help, Alex and Mia started piecing together a plan to adapt the technology for modern use. They realized they could repurpose old satellite arrays orbiting Earth into conduits for the weapon. While they worked, news poured in about the Zaxuri's behavior. Reports suggested that the aliens weren't just here for resources. Instead, they seemed fearful of humanity's potential. Maya found evidence hidden in intercepted transmissions between the alien ships. The Zaxuri viewed Earth as a threat, a rising power capable of challenging their dominance in the galaxy. This revelation gave Alex and Mia renewed determination. Humanity wasn't fighting just to survive. They were fighting to prove their worth. Outside the lab, tensions continued to rise. Protests erupted worldwide as people demanded action from their leaders. Some called for immediate retaliation, while others pleaded for peace. Despite the divisions, one thing united everyone: resistance. Ordinary citizens armed themselves with whatever weapons they could find, vowing to protect their homes. Even children drew pictures of Earth standing tall against the alien invaders. Back in the lab, Alex paused for a moment to reflect. He thought about how far humanity had come in such a short time. From building the first rockets to exploring distant planets, humans had achieved incredible things. Now, faced with extinction, they were proving once again that they wouldn't go down without a fight. Alex turned to Mia and Jake, his expression resolute. "We can do this," he said firmly. "We have to." With less than 24 hours left before the Zaxuri deadline, the trio worked tirelessly to bring Project Eclipse back to life. Every second counted, and failure was not an option. As the clock ticked closer to zero, hope flickered faintly, but stubbornly, in the hearts of billions. The next morning, General Harper called Alex and Mia to a secure conference room. The air was tense as military officials gathered around a large table. On one side of the room stood a group of soldiers, their faces hard and unreadable. Across from them was Kryl, the Zaxuri ambassador. The alien towered over everyone, its insect-like body covered in shimmering black armor. Its eyes glowed faintly, scanning the humans with an unsettling intensity. Kryl spoke first, its voice deep and metallic. "Your resistance is futile," it said. "Surrender now, or face annihilation." The words sent a chill through the room, But Alex noticed something odd about the ambassador's demeanor. Despite its confident tone, Krylf shifted uneasily on its many legs, almost as if it were nervous. Alex exchanged a glance with Mia, who gave him a subtle nod. They had spent hours preparing for this moment, analyzing every detail they could find about the Zaxari. Now, seeing Krylf up close, Alex realized the aliens weren't as invincible as they seemed. He decided to test the waters. "Why should we trust you?" Alex asked, his voice calm but firm. "You show up uninvited, threaten our planet, and expect us to roll over. That doesn't sound like diplomacy." The room went silent. Everyone stared at Alex, surprised by his boldness. Even Krylf hesitated before responding. "You are primitive," the alien sneered. "Your technology is inferior. Your species is weak. You have nothing to offer us." This time, Alex didn't back down. "If we're so weak, why are you wasting your time negotiating with us? Why not just destroy us already?" He leaned forward slightly, his gaze locked on Krylf. "Unless you're afraid of what we might become." For a brief moment, Krylf's glowing eyes dimmed. It was subtle, but Alex caught it. So did Mia. The alien quickly regained its composure, snapping back with disdain. "Do not mistake my patience for fear, human. Your defiance will only bring suffering." But Alex wasn't listening anymore. His mind raced with possibilities. If the Zaxari were truly afraid of humanity's potential, then maybe Project Eclipse wasn't their only advantage. Maybe the aliens had weaknesses they weren't admitting. This small victory gave him hope and a plan. After the meeting ended, Alex and Mia hurried back to the lab. They shared their observations with Jake, who listened intently while tinkering with a piece of old equipment. "So what you're saying is, these bugs are scared of us?" Jake asked, raising an eyebrow. "Not exactly scared," Mia clarified. "More like cautious. They see us as a threat, even though we're not as advanced as they are. That's why they want to crush us now, before we grow stronger." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "Then we need to make sure we hit them where it hurts. Fast and hard." As they worked, Alex couldn't shake the image of Krylf's reaction during the meeting. Something about it felt off, almost personal. He wondered if the ambassador had been hiding more than just fear. Was there dissent within the Zaxari ranks? Did they have factions arguing over how to handle Earth? These questions lingered in his mind, fueling his determination. Outside the lab, the world continued to brace itself for the coming storm. News outlets broadcast constant updates, showing images of people arming themselves and fortifying their homes. In some cities, massive protests erupted, with crowds chanting slogans like "Earth will not fall" and "We fight together." Children drew pictures of rockets and spaceships defeating alien invaders, taping them to windows and doors. Back in the lab, Alex took a moment to step outside for fresh air. He looked up at the sky, where the Zaxari ships still loomed ominously. For a moment, he felt overwhelmed by the enormity of what they were facing. But then he remembered the look in Krylf's eyes, the flicker of uncertainty. It reminded him that even the most powerful beings could feel doubt, and doubt was something they could exploit. When he returned to the lab, Alex found Mia and Jake poring over schematics for Project Eclipse. "We can do this," he said, his voice steady. "We've got the weapon, and we've got their weakness. All we need now is courage." Mia smiled faintly. "Courage is something we've got plenty of." With less than 12 hours left before the Zaxari deadline, the trio worked harder than ever. Every wire they connected, every calculation they checked, brought them closer to a chance at survival. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders, but they refused to give up. Not now. Not ever. The clock was ticking down, and the lab buzzed with frantic energy. Alex, Mia, and Jake worked around the clock, their movements quick but precise. They had reactivated parts of Project Eclipse, but there were still gaps in the system. Old satellite arrays orbiting Earth needed to be repurposed as conduits for the weapon, and time was running out. Each second felt heavier than the last. Jake focused on modifying the satellites, while Mia double-checked the calculations. Alex coordinated with General Harper's team, relaying updates and requesting additional resources. The military had scrambled to assist, diverting power supplies and rerouting communication lines to support the project. Despite the chaos, a sense of purpose united everyone involved. This wasn't just about science or strategy, it was about survival. As they worked, Alex couldn't stop thinking about Krylf. The ambassador's nervousness during their meeting gnawed at him. Why would an advanced species like the Zaxxeri show signs of fear? It didn't add up. Determined to find answers, Alex asked Mia to dig deeper into the intercepted transmissions. She sifted through encrypted messages, piecing together fragments of alien dialogue. After hours of analysis, Mia made a startling discovery. "Alex," she called out, her voice trembling. "I think I know why they're here." She pointed to her laptop screen, where lines of decoded text revealed unsettling truths. The Zaxxeri weren't just afraid of humanity. They were terrified. Decades ago, their empire had encountered another rising civilization that eventually surpassed them, leading to a devastating war. Now, the Zaxxeri saw Earth as a similar threat, a young, ambitious species with untapped potential. "They're not here for resources," Mia explained. "They're here to eliminate us before we grow too powerful. If we survive, they believe we'll challenge their dominance in the galaxy." Alex stared at the screen, his mind racing. The revelation changed everything. Humanity wasn't fighting just to save itself. It was fighting to prove it deserved a place among the stars. He shared the information with Jake, who let out a low whistle. "So these bugs are scared of what we might become," Jake said. "That's good news. Fear makes people, aliens, make mistakes." With renewed determination, the trio pushed forward. Jake managed to hack into several decommissioned satellites, bringing them back online one by one. Maya fine-tuned the magnetic pulse generator, ensuring it could sync with Earth's natural field. Alex coordinated with ground stations worldwide, preparing for the final activation sequence. Every step brought them closer to giving humanity a fighting chance. Outside the lab, the world held its breath. News of the Zaxxeri deadline spread like wildfire, sparking both hope and despair. In New York City, volunteers built barricades in Times Square, stacking furniture and vehicles to slow down potential invaders. In Tokyo, engineers raced to modify civilian drones into makeshift weapons. Across Africa, communities gathered in open fields, lighting fires and singing songs of unity. No matter where you looked, humanity refused to give up. Back in Washington, D.C., protests grew louder. Thousands of people marched toward the White House, holding banners that read, "Earth will rise, and we are not alone." Among them was Lisa Grant, a fighter pilot who had volunteered for active duty despite being retired. Her squadron had been disbanded years ago, but she knew how to fly, and she wasn't going to sit idly by while her planet burned. As night fell, Alex stepped outside the lab to clear his head. The sky was dark, dominated by the shadowy outlines of Zaxxeri ships. For a moment, he felt small and insignificant. Then he remembered the faces of the protesters, the voices of those refusing to surrender. Humanity might have been outmatched, but it wasn't broken. Not yet. When he returned inside, Mia greeted him with a tired smile. "We're almost ready," she said. "Just a few more adjustments." Alex nodded, his resolve stronger than ever. "Let's finish this," he said, "for everyone out there counting on us." With less than 6 hours left, the final pieces of Project Eclipse fell into place. The satellites were aligned, the generators hummed with power, and the activation code was ready to be deployed. All they needed now was the courage to pull the trigger, and faith that humanity's spirit would carry them through. The hours leading up to the Zaxxeri deadline were the longest of Alex's life. The lab was a flurry of activity, with Jake furiously typing commands into his laptop and Mia monitoring the satellite connections. Everything seemed to be falling into place until betrayal struck. Lieutenant Connor Blake, one of General Harper's trusted officers, had been overseeing security for Project Eclipse. Unbeknownst to the team, he had grown disillusioned with humanity's chances of survival. To him, resistance felt futile against an enemy as powerful as the Zaxxeri. Desperate to save himself, he secretly contacted the aliens, offering them information about the weapon in exchange for protection. Connor leaked details about the satellite array modifications and the planned activation sequence. Within minutes, the Zaxxeri acted. Their ships descended lower into Earth's atmosphere, targeting key facilities involved in Project Eclipse. Explosions rocked cities around the globe as alien weapons tore through military bases, research labs, and communication hubs. Chaos erupted everywhere. In Washington, D.C., alarms blared as the lab came under attack. A squadron of Zaxxeri drones breached the building, firing energy blasts that shattered windows and collapsed walls. Alex, Mia, and Jake scrambled to protect the core components of the weapon. "We can't let them take this," Alex shouted over the noise, clutching a hard drive containing critical data. Jake grabbed a fire extinguisher and swung it like a bat at an incoming drone, knocking it out of the air. "Get moving," he yelled, shielding Alex and Mia as they retreated deeper into the facility. Behind them, flames engulfed the main control room, destroying equipment they had spent days repairing. Maya tripped over debris but quickly got back to her feet, clutching a tablet with backup codes. Her hands trembled, but her focus never wavered. "We need to reach the underground bunker," she shouted. "The activation system is still intact there." As they ran, Jake suddenly stopped. He turned to face the others, his expression grim. "You two go ahead," he said firmly. "I'll hold them off." "No," Alex protested. "We're not leaving you behind." Jake smiled sadly. "Kid, someone has to buy you time. This is my fight too." Before they could argue further, he pulled a small device from his pocket, a remote detonator, and pressed a button. The hallway behind them collapsed in a shower of dust and rubble, blocking the advancing drones. "Now go," he barked, shoving them toward the exit. Tears streamed down Mia's face as they obeyed, sprinting down the corridor. They reached the bunker just as another explosion shook the building. Inside, Alex frantically connected the hard drive to the activation console while Mia entered the final codes. Through the chaos, they heard distant gunfire and the unmistakable sound of Jake shouting defiantly. Minutes later, the bunker door slammed shut, sealing them off from the outside world. Alex slumped against the wall, his heart heavy with grief. Jake's sacrifice had given them the time they needed, but the cost weighed heavily on both of them. "He saved us," Mia whispered, her voice breaking. "We can't let his death be in vain." Above ground, the battle raged on. Fighter jets streaked across the sky, engaging Zaxxeri ships in dogfights. Civilians armed with makeshift weapons took to the streets, refusing to surrender. Among them was Lisa Grant, who led a daring assault on an alien landing craft, buying precious moments for the resistance. Back in the bunker, Alex wiped tears from his eyes and focused on the task ahead. "Jake believed in us," he said, his voice steady despite the pain. "Let's make sure we honor him." With trembling hands, he initiated the final sequence for Project Eclipse. The countdown began, ticking closer to activation. Outside, the Zaxxeri fleet prepared for their ultimatum. Humanity's defiance infuriated them, but they underestimated the fury of a species fighting for its home. Deep below the surface, Alex and Mia braced themselves. The weapon was ready, and Earth's last hope rested in their hands. Jake's sacrifice ignited a fire within humanity. News of his bravery spread quickly, even as the battle raged on. People around the world heard how he had given his life to protect Project Eclipse, and it stirred something deep inside them. Fear turned into anger, and anger turned into action. From the streets of New York to the deserts of Africa, ordinary citizens rose up, determined to fight for their planet. In Washington, D.C., Alex and Mia emerged from the bunker, their faces streaked with dirt and exhaustion. The city was in ruins, but the spirit of its people burned brighter than ever. Civilians worked alongside soldiers, using whatever tools they could find to fortify defenses. Makeshift barricades lined the streets, and volunteers handed out supplies to those in need. Even children joined the effort, carrying messages between groups or helping tend to the wounded. Alex stood on the steps of the Capitol building, surrounded by survivors. His heart ached for Jake, but he knew the engineer's death couldn't be in vain. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward and addressed the crowd. "We've lost so much," he began, his voice trembling at first. "But we haven't lost everything." "Not yet." The crowd fell silent, their eyes fixed on him. Alex continued, his tone growing stronger. "These aliens think we're weak. They think we'll give up because they have better weapons and bigger ships. But they don't know us. They don't know what it means to be human." He paused, looking out at the sea of faces before him. "We are builders, dreamers, fighters. We've faced impossible odds before, and we've won. Today, we stand together. Together, we will show the Zaxari why you don't mess with Earth." A cheer erupted from the crowd, echoing through the ruined city. Strangers hugged one another, united by a shared purpose. In that moment, humanity wasn't defined by borders or differences. It was one force, standing shoulder to shoulder against an enemy that underestimated them. Mia watched from the sidelines, her heart swelling with pride. She knew Alex's words would inspire millions more. Across the globe, broadcasts carried his message to every corner of the planet. In Tokyo, engineers worked tirelessly to modify civilian drones, equipping them with explosives. In Brazil, farmers used tractors to block roads, slowing down alien ground forces. Even in remote villages, people armed themselves with bows, knives, and anything else they could use to defend their homes. Among the resistance was Lisa Grant, the retired fighter pilot who had refused to sit idly by. She led a squadron of volunteers, some experienced pilots, others amateurs willing to risk everything. Their mission was simple: distract the Zaxari fleet long enough for Alex and Mia to activate Project Eclipse. Flying outdated planes and repurposed spacecraft, they swarmed the alien ships, firing missiles and dropping decoys to confuse the enemy. Back in the command center, General Harper coordinated the global effort. Communication lines buzzed with updates from every continent. Resistance cells reported successful ambushes, while scientists shared data on the Zaxari's weaknesses. For the first time since the invasion began, there was hope, not just among leaders, but among ordinary people. As night fell, Alex and Mia returned to the bunker to prepare for the final activation. The countdown timer ticked steadily toward zero. Outside, explosions lit up the sky as humanity fought back with everything it had. Lysa's squadron engaged the Zaxari in a desperate dogfight, drawing the enemy fleet closer to Earth's equator, the optimal position for Project Eclipse to strike. Despite the destruction above ground, Alex felt a sense of calm. Humanity had proven itself resilient, resourceful, and unbreakable. He glanced at Mia, who nodded silently. They both understood what was at stake. This wasn't just about winning a battle. It was about proving to the galaxy that Earth was worth respecting. With only minutes left, Alex entered the final code. The console hummed to life, signaling readiness. Above them, Lisa's voice crackled over the radio. "We're holding them off, but not for long," she shouted. "Do it now." Alex pressed the activation button. A low rumble shook the ground as Earth's magnetic field surged to life. The weapon was ready. All they could do now was wait, and pray that humanity's last stand would be enough. The moment Alex pressed the activation button, the world seemed to hold its breath. Deep beneath the surface, the machinery hummed louder, vibrating through the walls of the bunker. Outside, the sky darkened as Earth's magnetic field surged with energy. For a brief second, everything was eerily silent. No explosions, no gunfire, no sound of alien engines roaring overhead. Then it happened. A blinding pulse erupted from Earth's atmosphere, spreading outward in every direction. The wave of energy crackled through the air, invisible but powerful. It struck the Zaxxari fleet hovering above the equator, disrupting their systems instantly. Ships that had once glowed with menacing light flickered and faltered. Some lost altitude, crashing into oceans or barren deserts. Others simply shut down, drifting aimlessly like dead hulks in space. Lisa Grant and her squadron watched in awe as the alien ships began to fall apart. "It's working," she shouted into her radio, her voice filled with disbelief and triumph. Her small group of fighters continued their assault, targeting the few ships still operational. But even those vessels struggled to regain control, their advanced technology rendered useless by the pulse. Back in the bunker, Alex and Mia stared at the monitors, their hearts pounding. The screens displayed real-time data showing the effects of Project Eclipse. Satellite feeds revealed chaos among the Zaxxari fleet. Explosions lit up the horizon as ship after ship succumbed to the weapon's power. Despite the destruction, there was no celebration yet. They knew the battle wasn't over, not until the last alien ship was neutralized. Above ground, people cheered as they witnessed the tide turn. In cities across the globe, survivors poured into the streets, waving flags and chanting slogans. Fires still burned, and buildings lay in ruins, but hope burned brighter than ever. Civilians embraced one another, tears streaming down their faces. Humanity had fought back, and won. But victory came at a cost. Lisa's squadron paid the ultimate price for their bravery. Outnumbered and outgunned, they held off the remaining Zaxxari fighters long enough for Project Eclipse to take full effect. One by one, their planes were shot down, disappearing in fiery bursts against the night sky. By the time the final alien ship crashed, none of Lisa's pilots remained. When the dust settled, silence fell over the battlefield. The once dominant Zaxxari fleet was decimated, its ships either destroyed or disabled. Survivors on Earth emerged cautiously from hiding, unsure if the danger had truly passed. In Washington, D.C., General Harper surveyed the damage, his expression grim. Though relieved by the outcome, he knew rebuilding would take years, if not decades. Alex and Mia climbed out of the bunker, blinking in the pale morning light. The air smelled of smoke and ash, but also of something else, possibility. Around them, exhausted soldiers and civilians worked together to clear debris and tend to the wounded. Despite the devastation, there was a sense of unity that hadn't existed before the invasion. Mia glanced at Alex, her eyes red from lack of sleep but shining with determination. "We did it," she said softly. "Jake didn't die for nothing." Alex nodded, swallowing hard. He thought about Jake, Lisa, and all the others who had given their lives to protect Earth. Their sacrifices weighed heavily on him, but so did the responsibility to honor them. "This isn't the end," he said firmly. "It's just the beginning." As they walked through the ruins of the city, they saw signs of resilience everywhere. Volunteers handed out food and water to those in need. Engineers worked tirelessly to restore power and communication lines. Artists painted murals on crumbling walls, depicting scenes of hope and defiance. Humanity had been pushed to its limits, but instead of breaking, it had grown stronger. In the distance, the remnants of the Zaxxari fleet floated lifelessly in orbit. The aliens' arrogance had been their downfall, underestimating a species capable of incredible ingenuity and courage. Now, humanity stood tall, battered but unbroken, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The destruction of the Zaxxari fleet left an eerie silence in the air. For the first time in days, the skies above Earth were clear. The massive alien ships that had once blocked out the sun now drifted aimlessly in orbit or lay in pieces across oceans and deserts. People around the world stepped outside, looking up at the open sky with a mix of awe and relief. It was over, or so they hoped. In Washington, D.C., Alex and Mia stood amidst the ruins, their bodies weary but their spirits unbroken. They had done the impossible, turned humanity's last hope into a weapon powerful enough to cripple an advanced alien empire. But as the initial shock wore off, reality began to sink in. The cost of victory was staggering. Cities were reduced to rubble, millions had lost their homes, and countless lives had been sacrificed. Among them were heroes like Jake and Lisa, whose bravery had given humanity a fighting chance. General Harper approached the pair, his face lined with exhaustion. "You two did something no one thought possible," he said, his voice heavy with emotion. "But this isn't the end. We need to prepare for what comes next." "What do you mean?" Maya asked, frowning. "The Zaxxeri are defeated. Isn't that enough?" Harper shook his head. "Not all of them are gone. Some ships manage to escape the pulse. And even if they're too damaged to fight back, they'll report this to their leaders. The Empire won't forget what happened here." Alex clenched his fists, anger flaring inside him. "So we just keep waiting for them to come back? How long until they send more ships, stronger ones?" "That's why we negotiate," Harper replied firmly. "If any Zaxxeri survived, we force them to talk. This is our chance to make sure they never threaten Earth again." Hours later, a transmission came through. The surviving Zaxxeri requested a ceasefire and demanded negotiations. Reluctantly, General Harper agreed, knowing it was the only way to secure peace, at least temporarily. Alex and Mia were chosen to represent humanity alongside Harper during the meeting. Though neither felt ready for diplomacy, they understood the stakes. This wasn't just about ending the war. It was about ensuring humanity's future. The negotiation took place aboard a damaged Zaxxeri ship hovering above Earth. As Alex, Mia, and Harper boarded, they couldn't help but feel uneasy. The interior of the vessel was cold and metallic, lit by dim blue lights. Krylth awaited them, its once arrogant demeanor replaced by something closer to humility. Its glowing eyes flickered weakly, and cracks marred its sleek armor. "You have proven yourselves formidable," Krylth admitted, its voice lacking the confidence it once carried. "We underestimated your species, and for that, we paid a price." Alex stepped forward, his tone steady despite the knot in his stomach. "You came here to destroy us because you were afraid of what we might become. Well, here we are. Humanity doesn't back down when threatened. If you ever return, we'll be ready." Krylth hesitated before responding. "We do not seek further conflict. Let this serve as a lesson for both our peoples." After hours of tense discussion, a treaty was drafted. The Zaxxeri agreed to leave Earth alone indefinitely and recognize humanity as an equal force in the galaxy. In return, Earth promised not to pursue revenge or expand into Zaxxeri territory. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. For now. As they returned to Earth, Alex looked out at the planet below. Despite the scars left by the invasion, he saw resilience. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged victorious. But deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, other empires watched and waited, and Earth would need to stand stronger than ever. Months passed after the Zaxxeri invasion, and Earth began the long process of healing. The scars left behind were deep, both physically and emotionally. Cities that had been reduced to rubble slowly came back to life as people worked together to rebuild. Volunteers from all over the world traveled to affected areas, offering help however they could. Construction crews cleared debris, doctors treated the injured, and teachers set up temporary schools for children who had lost everything. Despite the hardships, there was a sense of unity that hadn't existed before. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. In Washington, D.C., Alex and Mia became symbols of hope. Their names were spoken with reverence, their stories shared in newspapers, documentaries, and speeches. People admired not just their intelligence but their courage. They had stood firm when the odds seemed impossible, proving that even the smallest actions could change the course of history. Yet neither Alex nor Mia sought fame. To them, the real heroes were those who had sacrificed everything. Jake, Lisa, and countless others whose names would never make headlines. The treaty with the Zaxxeri held steady, though tensions remained. Survivors of the fleet had returned to their empire, and while no new ships had appeared near Earth, humanity knew better than to let its guard down. Governments worldwide invested heavily in defense systems, using what little knowledge they had gained from Project Eclipse to develop new technologies. Satellites were upgraded, early warning systems were put in place, and training programs for pilots and engineers expanded rapidly. Alex and Mia continued their work, determined to ensure Earth would never be caught off guard again. With General Harper's support, they formed a global research team dedicated to studying alien technology and preparing for future encounters. They scoured the wreckage of Zaxxeri ships, analyzing every piece of equipment they could salvage. What they found amazed them. Advanced propulsion systems, energy shields, and communication devices far beyond human understanding. It was clear that humanity still had much to learn if it wanted to stand toe-to-toe with galactic powers. At the same time, Alex and Mia pushed for transparency. They believed that knowledge should belong to everyone, not just governments or militaries. If we're going to face threats like the Zaxxeri again, Alex argued during a press conference, we need to work together, not just as nations, but as one species. Their message resonated deeply. Around the world, people rallied behind the idea of unity. Borders that had once divided countries began to feel less important. Collaborative projects sprang up everywhere. From farming initiatives in Africa to space exploration programs led by international coalitions. Humanity wasn't just rebuilding, it was evolving. But the memory of loss lingered. Monuments were erected in honor of those who had died defending Earth. In New York City, a statue of Jake Miller stood tall, his arms outstretched as if holding back the sky itself. Nearby, plaques listed the names of Lisa Grant and her squadron, their bravery forever etched in stone. Every year on the anniversary of the invasion, people gathered at these memorials to pay their respects. As Alex stood before one such gathering, he felt a mix of pride and caution. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness, but he knew the galaxy was vast and unpredictable. Somewhere out there, other empires watched Earth closely, waiting to see what it would do next. Would humanity rise to meet the challenges ahead, or would it falter under the weight of its own ambition? When the ceremony ended, Mia joined him, handing him a cup of coffee. "What are you thinking about?" she asked softly. "The future," Alex replied, gazing up at the stars. "We've taken our first step into the galaxy, but there's so much more out there. We can't afford to stop now." Mia nodded, smiling faintly. "Then let's keep moving forward, together." And with that, they turned away from the monument, ready to face whatever came next. Years passed since the Zaxxeri invasion, and Earth transformed in ways no one could have imagined. The scars of war faded, replaced by a spirit of innovation and cooperation. Cities rose from the ashes, more advanced and sustainable than before. Renewable energy powered homes, schools, and businesses, while new technologies reshaped daily life. Humanity had learned from its brush with extinction, using the lessons to build a better future. Alex Carter became a household name, not just for his role in defeating the Zaxxeri, but for his vision of unity. He traveled the world, speaking at conferences and meeting with leaders to promote global collaboration. "We're stronger together," he often said. "If we can face an alien empire as one species, imagine what else we can achieve." His words inspired millions, sparking movements for peace, equality, and progress. Mia Lopez dedicated herself to science, leading research teams that explored alien technology salvaged from the Zaxxeri wreckage. Her work unlocked breakthroughs in medicine, communication, and space travel. Thanks to her efforts, humanity took its first steps toward becoming a galactic power. Satellites equipped with quantum entanglement systems allowed instant communication across vast distances, paving the way for interstellar exploration. But not everyone celebrated these advancements. Some feared humanity's rapid growth would attract unwanted attention from other alien civilizations. Whispers of paranoia spread, warning that Earth might be inviting danger by reaching too far too fast. Alex dismissed these concerns, arguing that hiding wouldn't protect them. "The galaxy already knows we exist," he said during an interview. "Our best defense is to keep moving forward, to show that we're ready for whatever comes next." Despite the challenges, hope burned brightly around the globe. Monuments honoring the heroes of the HFY War served as reminders of humanity's resilience. Every year, people gathered to remember those who had given their lives. Jake Miller, Lisa Grant, and countless others whose courage had changed the course of history. Their sacrifices inspired a new generation to dream big and aim high. One evening, Alex stood on a hill outside what was once Washington, D.C., now rebuilt into a shining beacon of progress. The city sparkled under the stars, its skyline a testament to how far humanity had come. Beside him stood Mia, her eyes reflecting the same awe he felt. "Do you ever wonder what's out there?" she asked, pointing to the night sky. "All the time," Alex replied with a smile. "There are billions of stars, each with its own stories, its own worlds. Someday we'll meet them, not as victims, but as equals." Mia nodded thoughtfully. "And when that day comes, we'll be ready." As they gazed upward, a shooting star streaked across the horizon, leaving a trail of light in its wake. It was a small moment, fleeting and quiet, yet it carried a sense of promise. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Now it stood on the edge of a new frontier, eager to explore the unknown. Back in the city, children played games inspired by the war against the HFY, pretending to pilot spaceships and save the planet. Teachers shared stories of bravery and ingenuity, instilling values of teamwork and perseverance. Artists painted murals depicting Earth rising victorious, surrounded by stars. Everywhere you looked, humanity embraced its potential, refusing to let fear dictate its future. Alex knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still challenges to overcome, both on Earth and beyond. But he also knew that humanity had something special, a stubborn determination to survive, adapt, and thrive. No matter what threats lay ahead, Earth would stand firm. As the sun set and the stars emerged, Alex turned to Mia. "We've come so far," he said softly. "But this is just the beginning." She smiled, her expression filled with quiet confidence. "Let's see where it takes us." Together, they walked back toward the city, ready to face whatever the future held. Humanity had stared down an alien empire and won. Now it looked to the stars, unafraid of what might come next. The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries and dangers, but Earth was ready.